Like the kind of the doghouse.
Terrance Bud Crawford absolutely destroys Errol Spence and becomes the first ever undisputed welterweight champion in the history of boxing, and becomes the first ever male fighter to become undisputed in 2 weight divisions. We are witnessing an absolute genius and an all-time great. And I'll be honest, if he can go up another division to 154 and do the same thing, we might be witnessing the greatest ever, because what Bud Crawford did to Errol Spence was absolutely amazing. Now, I'll be honest, I thought Spence would take it. I felt his activity, his work rate would be too much for Bud, and he would kind of just take it. I said before the fight, like directly before, split decision to Spence, because I thought it'd be close, but then I thought Spence would just do enough, and the judges will favour him anyway because he's the bigger fighter, the bigger name. However, what we saw was nothing short of a one-sided beatdown. This was an absolute just destruction. And I'll be honest, so I thought after Inoue beat Fulton that performance could not be topped. But I tell you what Bud did to Errol Spence was nothing short of magnificent. I'm an Errol Spence fan. He's my favourite fighter. I've said this before. I'm not even mad, because what I saw was a genius. The way he picked Errol Spence apart time and time again. So the fight itself, the first round, I will say Bud did his usual, feeling him out. And Errol Spence, I think I gave him the round. He was a slightly more active fighter. But then he caught him in the second round with a beautiful shot. Actually a reverse 1-2. He caught him with the left, and then he was in the southpaw stance. He caught him with the left and then dropped him almost with a pull away right hand, and it was such a beautiful shot. And some people are debating whether it's a flash knockdown or whether that was him really getting hurt. I think it was somewhere in between. I think the shot kind of caught Spence sort of in the motion, like a little bit like when Kovalev knocked down Andre Ward, where it wasn't a monstrous shot where his legs were gone, but it was a shot that wasn't a shot that was just a flash shot where it can happen. He got hit with a big shot, and Crawford is a ruthless finisher. And what I said in my preview for the fight, and I'll be honest, I said the 3 things that Crawford should do is he should fight the whole fight at southpaw to take away the jab of Spence, which he did. Fight at mid-range, which he was able to do. And I think the third thing I said was, I'm pretty sure, was to not let Spence back you up and hold centre ring. And also go to Spence's body a bit more and back him up. Bud did all of these things to a T pretty much. And I think his adjustments, it was like every single time he came in Spence, he just got caught, and Bud was just much sharper than Spence. That's what it was. And I said I think Spence would win, but I also said I wouldn't be surprised if Bud got it. And I also felt, my honest feelings coming into the fight was, I always said Spence decision. I never thought Spence would knock Crawford out. However, I never said this, but I think I did feel if one guy was going to get knocked out, it would have been Spence. Only reason being, he has a tendency to overlunge or to overextend sometimes. And Bud's timing is that good that he can just time you at the perfect moment and catch you with a perfect counter. And once he hurts you, Bud, he's the best finisher in boxing. He's the worst guy in boxing to get hurt by, because with someone like Deontay Wilder, let's just say he puts you down, he's just going to swing like a lunatic to get you out of there. So if you have your wits about you, you can kind of time Wilder coming in. You can't do that with Crawford. He's so measured, and it was a beautiful shot. Got him down in the second round, and you know, I forget who the commentator was watching on TNT Sports, but they were constantly pointing out that Spence was constantly lowering his right hand, to lower the guard, and Spence has always fought like this. Spence is very much a come forward pressure fighter who is just very skilled and very fundamentally solid, and his footwork is a lot better than what people make him out to be. However, the one thing that I think Spence struggled with here, and this happens in boxing, first of all, stylistically, this was a horrible fight for the simple facts that Bud, his movement and his speed and I think, like I say, his sharpness, like his punches are much quicker. Spence does sometimes throw punches and it looks a little bit slow, but what Spence does is he throws 5, 6, 7, 8 at you, so you kind of overwhelms you. He didn't do that to Bud, and I think the problem that Spence had is, I think the first round he did good. He didn't really get caught with anything crazy, but I think once he got knocked down, the whole fight just flipped into Crawford's favour, and Crawford beat him with ease, and he put him down. I think it was round 7. He put him down twice in that round, and then I think it was round 8, the round after that. Oh no, actually round 9. That Crawford ended up getting the stoppage. He was wobbling all over the place, Spence. I thought the referee could have stopped it earlier. Derek James is a great trainer, but I feel like he could have done a lot more to help Spence out. I know Spence is a dog and he doesn't want to have his corner throw a towel in, and I get it. And I think from Derek James' perspective, I actually get it from his as well, because ultimately Spence is an elite level championship fighter. You don't want to pull that fighter out, but you just got to, I think after he got knocked down twice, I would have pulled him out then, because I don't think you need to see him go through 8 and 9 where he was getting beaten. And it was a crazy performance from Terrance Crawford, and Crawford is as good as I think everybody always said he was. There's a lot of people, and I want to say this, who always felt that Crawford was just way too good for Spence. And you got to respect them people. They understand the sport, because I always felt like Spence was a bit almost being underrated, and I still think he is. But I will say Crawford was just too sharp on this tonight. On the night of the fight, he just looked so good. Everything he was hitting Spence with, whether it's right or left, we all know he's a switch hitter, Crawford, but there's just something about the way every single time he was coming in. They always say the punches that hurt you the most are the ones you didn't see coming. And Spence, I don't think saw any of those shots coming that he got knocked down with. And that's the problem. This is exactly why Inoue is so dangerous. Inoue is a big puncher, but he hits you with shots that you just don't see. And them shots that you don't see are the big ones. Like, you look at a lot of the big knockout artists in boxing. The best punches or their best knockouts are the ones where they will hide it, like Tank's uppercut against Santa Cruz, for example. Tank was constantly getting hit with the straight right, and eventually he ducked under and went with the uppercut. Santa Cruz didn't see it coming, and that's why he almost looked like he died. You look at a lot of Boots Ennis' knockouts, who has the same sort of skill set as Crawford. His best knockouts come where he kind of throws a flash shot out of nowhere, which the opponent doesn't see coming, and they go. It's the anticipation that Crawford has, which makes him so good, though. And from left, he was from the southpaw stance. Spence couldn't get going. He couldn't take like I said, the southpaw stance takes away the jab of Spence, and Crawford's jab was so sharp as well. It looked like Spence, he just couldn't handle anything that Crawford had, and it's crazy to me because Spence is a great fighter, and I don't think people should take this away from him. He is very, very good. It's just Crawford is elite. He is that good. And I said after Inoue beat Fulton, he was the best fighter in the world. I'll be honest now, it's up for debate because I don't know anymore. It's 1A and 1B. Those two sit at the top, Crawford and Inoue. I love Canelo. If Usyk can do something, maybe. But at the moment, those two are 1A and 1B. They are that good. You can decide who you think's better. I think because of the level of Crawford, undisputed in 2 divisions, and the fact that he made an elite guy like Errol Spence look that bad, just shows you how good he was. And from Errol Spence's point of view, I think his game plan first round he was alright, but it just didn't seem as if he had much of an answer to anything that Crawford had. And this is where I do wonder, because a lot of people felt Errol Spence was too basic, and I'll be honest with you, I felt he could have, because of how big the fight was, he had enough to beat Crawford. But if he had ever fought Boots, or if he does fight Boots, Errol Spence, I always felt that Boots would be too much for him, because fighters who have just a more varied skill set, you're always going to favour them. It's the one reason why maybe not now, I'd have to see how he does in a few weeks, but it's the one reason why I actually almost picked AJ over Wilder, even though AJ's skill set isn't that big at all. But he could box off the back foot, he's a bit more aggressive, he can do different things. That's why I kind of always felt he would. Now, obviously, in my mind, I favour Wilder. And, it's the same reason why I felt like Boots would have been Errol Spence, is that Boots is a generational talent, so it's not really fair to compare, but someone like Jaron Ennis has that sort of ability to switch. He's so much quicker. The lateral movement is different. And Crawford, his lateral movement's alright. It's not actually amazing. It's not as if he's crazy athletic. He's just so sharp, everything he throws. And the way he adjusts to fights, there's no real blueprint to beat Crawford, because you could come out super aggressive if he catches you. You could come out maybe a bit more cautious. He'll outbox you. You know, there's not really a real set way to beat man. I don't know if Errol Spence has got the skill set and the age he is at. And I love Errol Spence. He's my favourite fighter in boxing. I just don't know if he can really make that adjustment. I don't want to see this again, personally. At 154, I think it'll be worse because Crawford hits a lot harder. Now, I'm not ruling Spence out. Like I said, I thought he'd win this fight, so I'm not going to now say he has no chance. He has a good chance. Maybe not a good chance. He has above or slightly less than average chance, I'll say. Because he's a good fighter and he's an elite fighter. But the problem that you've got is that I just don't think he really has the skill set to adjust in the way that I think you need to against Bud. And I think the problem that Spence had, I mean, admittedly, Spence didn't look fantastic on the night, but I do think that's way more to do with how good Crawford is than to anything to do really with Spence. And yet, the way he just kind of, Crawford, it was like he barely even got out of second gear. It felt like he was just cruising the whole fight, and the way he picked him apart was just masterful. And yeah, I said against Fulton, I knew it would be a close fight, and I said against Spence and Crawford it would be a close fight, and both times I was wrong. So I feel like I need to just say these picks with my chest more often. Both times was wrong, but I got the UFC pick right, so I'm taking it. But crazy performance though, and the fact that Crawford came out to Eminem always, it kind of got me thinking that he might take it, to be honest. And the fishnet, Crawford's the guy, man, and he now deserves the respect. I've always thought Crawford was amazing. My only question was, and this changed when he beat Sean Porter, the competition at 147, who's he got? He beat him, and I thought, okay, now I know how good he is, and he's grown into the weight class. Honestly, maybe Spence took this fight a bit earlier in his career, maybe 2018, 2019. Crawford maybe hadn't grown properly adjusted to the weight at that time. Maybe then you may have been able to oppose yourself in the size. People will blame the car crash, obviously. The car crash didn't have any effect against Ugas. It didn't have any effect against Danny Garcia. Spence, I don't think there's any anything wrong with Spence's style. I don't think he's declined or whatever. He just got made to look a lot worse than he actually is by an all-time great. That's all it is. I don't believe... Yes, okay, maybe there's some things that Spence could do. Spence, maybe he was rehydrated. Maybe the weight killed him. But, you know, like Bud said, when he beats him, they're going to say he looked too small and he stayed at the weight too long. That's what they're saying now. And everything he said has come to fruition. And I think we got to give Terrance Crawford the respect. He is something special. His timing, his ability to switch from right to left, the adjustments that he makes on the fly, his natural instincts as a fighter, his boxing ability, he has so much going for him. And honestly, he's 35, but I don't really see him slowing down anytime soon. I think he could do a Floyd and go until he's 40. I think you're going to have problems. I don't think anybody at 154 beats him. I don't think Charlo does. I don't think Tsui does. I don't think, I just don't know who beats him at 154. I don't think there's anybody in that division who really has the skill set or the wherewithal to really step to Bud, to be honest. I think he's that good. And yeah, I don't see how anybody now can really say he's not pound for pound. If not one, he's two. You know, he's up there at least. You know, Tim Tsui. I can never say the guy's name, but you know what I'm talking about. Australian, amazing fighter, and you know, he's somebody at 28. He could be a good fight for Bud. Charlo would be a very good fight. We know those two got beef, even though he's now fighting Canelo. It's interesting, this one. However, I will say, I think the only man at 147 who causes him problems is Boots Ennis. Other than that, he'll beat Ortiz, he'll beat Conor Ben with ease, Keith Thurman. None of these guys come close to Bud. Spence was your last real boss fight, if we want to talk in video game terms. There's nobody else left for Bud. He hasn't beaten everybody at 147, but he's done enough. He's beat guys like Porter. He's beaten guys like Jeff Horn to take the belt. He just wasn't in that PBC club, so he couldn't fight those guys. And it was purely a promoter issue to why those fights never happened. It wasn't because Bud was scared. And it wasn't because those fighters were scared either, you know. But we kind of see why PBC weren't really willing to have Crawford and Spence fight a little bit earlier, because that's all it was. And I don't believe that. I just don't think that they wanted him anywhere near him, because they knew how good Crawford was, and now everybody knows. In the biggest fight of his career, he turned up, and Bud Crawford shows he is greatness. He is probably the best fighter of his era. What he did to Errol Spence and the elite level fighter was nothing short of magnificent. He has now, I would say, the best win of any of the pound for pound fighters. I know Inoue was a great win against Fulton, but Fulton isn't at the level of Errol Spence if you want to compare how highly they are regarded in boxing and in their weight class. He is something special, Terrance Bud Crawford, and I can't wait to see him fight again. I wasn't even, as an Errol Spence fan, I wasn't even upset watching that, because I was watching a master, a genius at work. And I'm a fan of boxing, and this man is without a doubt one of the greatest boxers who I think has ever lived. One of the best we have ever seen. The way he just picked Errol Spence apart, right, left. His timing is just unbelievable. His ability to make adjustments on the fly, it's just something else. Honestly, can't wait. I don't think they should do this again personally, but I think they will. I think Spence does earn the right, as the fighter who had most of those belts, to earn the right to get them back. I don't think they should do it in December. I think they should go maybe February, March time. Give him a bit more time to recover, because he took a real beating, and he may never be the same after that. But who knows? We said this about Fury Wilder, and Wilder was able to show up a bit more in the third fight and impose his will a bit better. But I don't know. That's that second fight. I just think the same thing happens. I'd rather see Bud against Boots, to be honest, but I don't think that fight will happen. I think he will either go up or fight Spence again. But either way, we saw a genius at work. Errol Spence is still an amazing fighter, but you just came up against greatness. Like I said, Spence is a very good fighter, but Crawford is the very, very elite. And we saw greatness last night. Terrance Bud Crawford, undisputed now in 2 weight divisions, one of the best I've ever seen. And I ain't got nothing more to say. So yeah, just my thoughts on Crawford Spence. And until next time.